that better? Yeah, that's better.
There we go. That's a little better. There you go. Because we just need the blue eyes to pop. That's all the light we need is just the blue eyes to just pop through. Well, let me
Is it okay that I drink on this podcast?
Oh, you can get wasted. I highly encourage people to not be sober on the podcast. That way way I can get you to say more embarrassing things that I can make video clips out of. So that's kind of the plan. So feel free to, if you need to snort a line of Coke or something to get loose, that's been pretty typical for the guests that I've had on so far.
Especially all the fighters with fights coming up.
Yeah, exactly. All the fighters, that's how they're cutting weight, is they just street drugs is the answer to that. So all right. I
knew they had a magic weapon.
So let me kick this off here. All right. So my guest today is someone that you've probably never seen her face before because she's always behind a camera. So they've only seen you basically from the chin up. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you've got a lot of stuff going on. This is somebody that I've actually never had a chance to sit down and chat with before. We usually I've seen you in passing, we wave, and then we send cheesy memes to each other at 3 o'clock in the morning. Freelance videographer, photographer, former creative force behind the Fight Files vlog. You rebranded recently to LM Creative because you're sick of the fighters. You've done work with MMA athletes, BJJ athletes, some UFC fighters. You've done a ton of work for Ontario Soccer, it appears like. And Lauren Maharaj is here. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it right. Did you practice that?
I figured that's how it was. I thought maybe it was like Maharaj or something like that, but then I noticed there was only one J. So I thought, let's just go with Maharaj. No, but I looked up a video of you saying your own name or other people saying it.
Okay, fair enough.
I leave no stones unturned here at the PFed podcast. So actually, the other thing too is were you actually a model at one point? I think I might have seen something. It was like
Did you Google my name and a bunch of random stuff came up?
No, I was just on OnlyFans and suddenly there was a So I stumbled on that.
I'm not an OnlyFans. Everybody knows I'm not. I'm laughing because it's a good joke. So everybody knows.
I thought $500 a month was a little much, but I decided to give it a trial for a month just to see what would happen. So far, it's just a bunch of pictures with you and a soccer ball, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But so were you actually a model at one point? I think I might have seen that in the Google machine somewhere.
So the Google machine probably has pictures of me looking like I think I'm a model, but before I got into all this sports nonsense, I actually was a theater person. So that's where my in front of the camera stuff comes from. So you probably saw a lot of headshots that I took.
What is a feeder person?
That might be what it was.
What exactly is a feeder person?
I guess a professional actor who didn't really do much professional acting because
there's a lot of air quotes going on for people. There's a lot for people listening. There's a ton of air quotes happening right now. Okay, so basically you lied on your LinkedIn page is what it's boiled down to.
100%. Yeah, that's what you have to do.
No, but you know what? It wouldn't have surprised me because the thing that always struck me about you was the eyes. Like you just have these awesome blue eyes that are just like, I don't know. So I just assumed that you probably were a model at some point. But I mean, I'm assuming I'm assuming they're contact lenses, of course. But no, but
I can take them out for you.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's so funny because I guess I kind of came in contact with you because I'd always seen you kind of around Parabellum on and off, and I think the first time I saw you was Josh Hill was in, and you were kind of like following him around with a camera. So I just assumed that naturally you were part of Josh's entourage, because Josh normally has women with cameras following around everywhere. So, but yeah, like how did you? Sorry, no, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say I would love to be a part of Josh's entourage. Sometimes I think you know what? The last time I did a video of him was probably like 2017, maybe. When he was with World Series before he left, I think.
So basically, you were just riding high with him while he was doing well in a big promotion, and then once he left, you thought, let's just pass on Josh Hill for a while. But you're kicking yourself now.
Yeah, now he's in Bellator, so I gotta get back on the train.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tell me a little bit about like how did you end up at Parabellum, and I guess first tell me, how would you describe what you do? And if people say, you're Lauren, what do you do for a living? And how would you explain that to people?
So it's funny that you use the word appearance for Ontario Soccer, because that actually is my full-time job.
Okay.
So the appearance is correct. I actually do videography and basically digital content creation for Ontario Soccer full-time.
Okay.
And I pretty much take all the skills that I have there and I do that stuff on my own in other ways. So that's where a lot of the fight stuff comes in, because before I got into soccer, I was working for BTC Fight Promotions.
Yeah, I thought I saw a video of that too.
Yeah, so I was with them for their first 2 shows, and before that I was just like, I was working with the gym.
Okay.
But because they did the pro shows and like Parabellum pumps out so many pro athletes, I was at Parabellum all the time. So I was lucky to have those, like, create good relationships with all the athletes and Parabellum in general, because, you know, like, that trend has continued and they will continue to do that. That's just the name of the game for that gym. So yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to sort of do that and continue to do that. So yeah, now that I've sort of rebranded from Fight Files, I was doing Fight Files more as like my own thing, so I could sort of distinguish the two, like what I was doing for BTC and then what I was doing on my own.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And then I wanted to expand past mixed martial arts, because obviously I enjoy other sports. I'm really into doing portrait work. I'm really into doing street photography. So I just wanted to open it up a bit. If I could do MMA stuff full time, I would, but you know, the community is like this tiny and there's even less money in it. So
yeah.
You know, leave it for the athletes, I guess. Right.
So what came first here? You sort of were doing work with Ontario Soccer, and then, like, did you have any sort of, like, do you have an athletic background in martial arts or anything? And how did you end up going? I guess it just seems like a jump from Ontario Soccer to then going to sort of BTC. So how did that come about? And was
it was the other way around, actually. I was with BTC and then I went to Ontario Soccer. So I've been with Ontario Soccer for 3 years now.
Okay.
But in terms of athletic background, no. Like, honestly, the only reason why I got into the other end of it was because I have no athletic background.
Really?
Never trained. No, zero. Like, actually, I mean, I did some classes when Tap Out opened, when it was Tap Out. Like,
yeah, I remember those days.
Classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was there. I did some striking and stuff, but I have a bit of a neck injury, so I can't really do jiu-jitsu, which I have always wanted to do. I've never even tried it, but I'm so fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like to film it so much, because I just look at it and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I could do that, you know? Like, it's just so technique based and so
you just see
about
fat
flow and everything.
You just see fat people like me doing it, and you're like, obviously I could do it if that fucking guy's doing it, for sure. For sure. Look at this guy. So talk to me a little bit about some of the people that you've ended up working with. Like, how did this kind of, so you start doing some stuff with BTC. I'm assuming you're meeting a ton of athletes. Who did you end up kind of working with? Because I've noticed some work from you with people like Adam Defreitas. I've seen with the UFC fighter, the Cheesecake, what's her name? The Cheesecake?
Oh, Sarah.
Yeah. I've seen her. Josh Hill, it looks like you've done some work with Jasmine and all these kind of people. So talk to me a bit about the people you've worked with and what you were kind of doing with them.
Yeah, so it's funny because I'll go through it systemically a little bit. So like with Sarah.
So what's her name? Sarah
Morris.
Morris, okay.
Yeah. So with Sarah, it's funny because she was in BC at the time.
Right, yeah.
When I had virtually met her. And I was interning with the Fight Network. So this was after I was finished school. I interned with them. Oh, wow, okay. And I continued writing for them a little bit afterwards. And so I interviewed her because she had a fight coming up. And I interviewed her. And then I saw that her fight got canceled because she had hurt her wrist, I think, or her ankle. Okay. I can't remember.
Yep.
So I texted her and I said, hey, Sarah, I heard about your injury. Like, are you okay? And then, like, from there, we just, like, became friends because I guess she said nobody had ever, like, done that before. Like, journalists have never reached out to her who had spoken to her when something like that had happened. So she was like, that was really cool. Like, so we just stayed in touch. And so when she moved to Vegas, I was like, when I come down there for my bachelorette party before I got married, nice. I was like, I'm coming to Extreme Couture and we're definitely hanging out and I'm going to shoot you and stuff. And so that was really fun. I haven't seen her in BC yet. I think she's back now, but I'm pretty sure they might be moving again. So
Okay.
we'll see. I don't know when I'm going to be able to work with her again, but that was really fun. And then Adam Defreitas. Adam, again, I met him through the amateur scene. So when he was fighting for, what was that promotion? The one where they would always hold it at the place in Georgetown. There was a big bar in Georgetown with...
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
It was like a country bar or something.
Yeah, the old.
This was like maybe 2014 or something. Like
barnyard
I can't remember.
fights.
Anyway, so
barnyard fights.
Something, yeah, like
Canada. Yeah.
It was really popular. Those shows did really, really, really well. But he was in the amateur scene, and he was just like submitting everybody like first round. Like he
Adam's
was just,
a beast.
Nobody wanted to fight him. Yeah. So I had interviewed him a couple times, and then we just kept in touch. And so, like, once he finally tried to go pro, he had so many difficulties getting a fight because of what he did in his amateur career, but also, like, the opponents that they were trying to bring in for him, you know, they were people who just, at least the one, there was one guy, I can't remember, I think his name was Duncan Henry or something. They brought him into BTC. This was supposed to be his pro debut. They brought him into BTC, and Adam showed up at 7 a.m. for weigh-ins, and I'm sitting there with him, and he's like, I just have a bad feeling about this. I'm like, don't worry, he's going to show up. It's going to be fine. Like,
oh, no, yep.
Everything's cool. Don't worry. And then this guy shows up, and he's like 25 pounds over. It was like crazy. Like, because they were supposed to fight at like 170, I think, or 155, and this guy like clearly didn't train at all. He clearly did not cut weight at all. And Adam just looked at me with just horror. He's like, oh my God. Like, and when he cuts, like he really cuts, like he gets skinny. So I felt bad for him because it was like, man, just go eat a cheeseburger. Like,
yeah. Well,
I feel
so
bad
did they end up actually fighting then or no?
No, the commission said they couldn't do it because they only give them, I think, an hour or two to like get the weight down, but there would have been no way that this guy would have cut weight.
Well, it's funny. Like I talked to people like Aaron Jeffrey and Josh Hill, and it's like, you know, they're successful, but there's so many of these crazy behind the scenes stories and of like the struggle to get not only just an opponent, but somebody that shows up on weight that's professional. I mean, I've just seen, you know, if you go to some of their pages like Tapology or whatever, there's like, you know, the green and red is like wins or losses, but they have these like gray boxes, and it's just like canceled fight. And so these guys are, you know, and nobody sees this, right? They just see the, you know, Josh is in Bellator, Josh is in World Series of Fighting, but it's like for every one of those fights, there's 10 stories of I cut weight, I was a professional, this guy showed up fat, missed weight, I wasn't paid, the commission did this, I got screwed over here. And it's like, it's amazing to me that these guys, like, you know, you think a lot, I see so many people that get into fighting because they think it's cool and they want the shine, but it's like the people that actually do the damn thing and make a career out of it, the shit that they go through and the drive to continue to work through it is just, to me, is unbelievable. So I've heard a lot of similar types of stories like that, and I can't imagine the disappointment you feel at these like these training camps are insane, and then you get there and it's like it's off because the guy doesn't show up or he's fat. So, I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen, like you're saying now, some crazy stories like that. So I feel bad for Adam there.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's one of the biggest reasons why I love being on the other side of it.
Yeah, you're just able to, like, you're drinking your beer. Because
I can watch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, my God. Like, I can't. So, like, for example, if you're talking about somebody like Adam Defreitas, right? Like, in general, like, let's say you're fighting full-time, training full-time, you don't have a full-time job. That's still hard. Like, that's not easy. But then you have somebody like Adam Defreitas. He works full-time. He's a corrections officer. He works 12-hour days. He has a son now. And, like, he's trying to pursue a fight career. He still has something. He obviously still has a career, but he's also trying to pursue fighting. And that's not easy. And he's not fighting amateur anymore, right? So, like, the stakes are higher for him, and he continues to do it. And I just respect him so much because he has to get up at 3 a.m. to make sure he gets his workouts in, he gets to work on time, and he can still fit in another workout and still get enough sleep, which I don't think he does.
No,
so I have
definitely
not. Major respect for him.
Oh, absolutely.
He's an amazing person.
Well, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's kind of similar in a vein, but obviously different. Like I did music full time for 5-6 years, and it's like, I always worked incredibly hard, and I booked my own tours across Canada, and it would like so much went into it, and you just meet all these people that were musicians, and they were just like the biggest flakes in the fucking world. You know what I mean? Like you're killing yourself,
Yes.
and it's like I'm literally like up at night. I'm putting in, you know, I'm up all day and all night working on a website, making press releases, doing this, calling this person, talking to the bar, trying to get posters made, doing my website promotion. I'm recording, I'm writing. And it's like you get these people that, you know, they just show up or they miss out or they flake out last minute. And that, I mean, it's a different type of effort. So I can't imagine sacrificing your health. And these people are dieting and cutting, and it's like, it's just the most insane thing in the world, and there's so much unprofessionalism in that sport. So it's always cool to hear kind of your perspective behind the scenes because you're the one there holding the camera. So, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
like it's like you said, right? Like in terms of professionalism, it's funny how everything else will work for them. Like they'll be able to get through a full camp and then do all the hard workouts, but then they can't diet, or you know, they can't show up on weight, or they pull out last minute. I'm not saying things don't happen. Of course.
Oh, of course.
Happen.
I mean, shit happens.
But when I'm talking about somebody like Adam Defreitas, who I've seen had opponents literally like just crap out on him over and over and over again, to me, I get frustrated for him because he has so many other things on the go, and you know, managing that kind of lifestyle with the lifestyle that he has at home, it's a lot. So I can't imagine how frustrating it is for him when he's sitting there at 7 a.m, like dying to eat, and this guy just doesn't show up or shows up overweight.
And
it's
he's
months
got
and months of preparation.
Yeah, and he's got a family, he's got a kid, he's got a job. So the guy, I've never cut for a fight, but just like trying to stay, like I've dieted hard and tried to get really down, even just in jiu-jitsu, and it's like your brain doesn't work, you're not sleeping well, like, and I'm not even doing half of what they're doing. I'm just doing jiu-jitsu. They're doing striking, wrestling, crazy strength and conditioning. It's like to me it blows my mind. Like that's why I admire the fighters so much, and I'm so curious as to what makes them tick, because they're literally like 1%ers, like these people that are doing stuff that's so crazy and requires so much dedication, not just on one front. Like people can go and train because they love to train, but it's like, try going to train when you're taking in 1,500 calories a day and you're probably burning 8,000 because you're working out. Yeah. So, but I've found like a lot of these guys, like the Josh Hills, Aaron Jeffries, probably Adam, it's like they're really good too, and they're stuck in limbo, right? They're really good, but they're not in the big show. And so nobody wants to fight them because they're like, oh, this guy's really good, and everybody's trying to pad their record. So it's like, I could imagine you can get lost in that gray area where it's like you're constantly trying to climb the ladder, but you're it's almost like you're on a treadmill, right? You're getting a little closer and nobody shows up or nobody wants to fight you. And so anyways, I mean, I appreciate that, but please, continue on telling me a bit about, you know, some of your experiences with these fighters.
Yeah. So the other athlete that you mentioned was Jazz, who I started following her when she had her first AMI fight. I think that was 2017.
Wow, that's so crazy, man. So long, such a short time, and she's such a beast. Yeah. Yeah,
she only went pro like a year and a month ago.
Yeah.
Like she hasn't been pro for a long time. I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, she probably would have shoved like 3 or 4 fights in. Like she just loves fighting.
She's crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How do you say her last name? It's Jasmine Jasudavicius?
Jasudavicius. Damn it, I thought I knew how to say it.
Jesus Christ. Listening to these announcers try to say it is hysterical. Like they're all, it's like, I have no idea how to say it because I've never heard one pronunciation. So anyways.
They actually get scared. They're like, oh, blah, blah, and then they like swallow it.
Jasmine J. Just Jasmine J. That's her new name, but
yeah, I started following her, 2017, her first AMI fight. I think I had met her because I was going to Bellum at the time, and Lindsay, I knew Lindsay beforehand because she was around. Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love Lindsay.
Her and Lindsay would always partner up at sparring. I don't even know how long she had been training for at that point, but she had her first amateur fight. I think it was in Rochester. I didn't go to that one, but then I went to the next 3. I went to Rochester with her. She won a belt there. And then I also went to Ohio with her, and she won a belt there. And that was a wicked experience. And then she went pro the next year. So that was the last show I would have went to with her was late 2018, and then she went pro in 2019. So yeah, she's only been pro for a year and 1 month, I believe. But yeah, it was so fun, like just learning about her, right, and watching her progress, because like if I watched the video I did when like she was just going into her first fight to like what you see now, you can see the improvements, and you can see the Bellum trademarks.
Oh yeah.
And you can see, you know, like I can see, you know, her training and then it going directly to what she's doing in the ring. It's so cool. So it's like, it's so fun having that sort of insider's look, because you can kind of watch them when they're doing it live, and you can be like, okay, like you're going to make that adjustment, or, you know, I know what you're going to do next. Right. Cause like you've seen them do it so many times. It's almost like they just go on autopilot. And then I can kind of recognize what her fighting style is. So when I do videos about her, like I put videos together of her, it's always like really intense and really, I don't want to say aggressive, but she just has this like death stare.
No, she is. She's a natural
death stare, but she has this great face.
Well, I think she's a natural competitor. Like she just she has these traits and these elements that you just, it's so cheesy to say, but you can't teach to somebody. Like she just, like what's so crazy to me is like I met her, I've seen her at Parabellum a bit. I don't know her very well, but like everybody was like, oh, she's dating Chris Prickett, the Brock wrestling coach, Parabellum wrestling coach, Niagara top team instructor guy, like a Canadian star. And I was like, oh, they must have, they clearly they've known each other from the wrestling days and they wrestled together. And it's, everybody's like, no, dude, she never wrestled. Like she strikes me as this, like, I'm just like, how is she only finding this now to me? Because she just seems like she was kind of born to do this in a way. And she's just gotten so good so fast. I wonder, I mean, you brought up an interesting point. I was going to ask you about this, as I don't mean to say you're quote unquote an outsider, but as somebody that's not training, I'm always wondering what you're seeing from somebody from a distance, like what your impressions are. Like sort of things like, you know, you're seeing this Parabellum style in her and that sort of thing. So what does that mean? Like, what do you associate the Parabellum style with? And then also just talk to me a bit about what it's like living behind that lens with these fighters and what you're seeing there that maybe, I don't know, I don't see because I'm just seeing them in training and that sort of thing.
I think in like when it comes to the Parabellum style, I guess it's more, I can just see hints of like Lyndon's style and like how he teaches, and it's like there's things that I see I've seen athletes do that I know that he's helped, that I'm like, oh, he would you know, he would yell at them for this, or he would tell them to correct this, or, you know, like I can see him teaching them that exact thing, and I can see the way that he would explain it, because I've seen him do it a million times with different people. And the thing is I'm not saying like it's a style like, you know, every single one of them are the same. No, but you're seeing traits. He's amazing because he works to their strengths, and he has so much experience, and he's so good at recognizing what works, and he's so good at bringing that out. And he's just, honestly, he's such an amazing person. Like I have so much respect for Lyndon. I don't really tell him enough. I probably should, but I have so much respect for him because I've just seen how much influence what he's done has spread across the community. And it's no wonder Parabellum is so well respected, because you can see it in their athletes, right? Like, he's behind, you know, he's really behind all that. I know he would probably sit here and be like, you know, it's not me, like the athletes are doing it. Yes, that's true.
No, Lyndon would take credit for it. Lyndon would say it's all me.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. Yeah. Lyndon would be like, no, these guys are fucking idiots. It's all this guy. It's this guy right here. Say that, yes. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, he's great. But yeah, continue.
He would say that, yes. And then the other part of your question was, you were saying, what do I see?
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, you're already sort of talking about it, because it's, you know, I'm there. It's just, as a guy that's only really focused kind of on jiu-jitsu, I'm not there to see, I don't see Lyndon. Like, I see them at a distance, like in between classes working, but I don't sit there and watch what they're doing. So it would be hard for me to say, oh, that's a trademark of Lyndon's coaching right there in terms of striking or whatever, because I'm not really sure about that piece. So it's cool to hear about it, because I don't know, I'm so tunnel vision on one aspect of it, right? Like, I used to do a little bit of striking when I first started, but I even at this stage, I watch the UFC and I only have a very like rudimentary understanding of what they're trying to do. I don't understand the high level nature of the standing game as I do appreciate more on the ground. So it's just cool to hear your perspective. It was just more too, I was saying like, you're seeing these people in a different light. You're kind of in there with them in more of these kind of down times, in the behind the scenes. And it's like, I just wonder what you see behind your camera there with these people that maybe the rest of us don't. Like, I don't know if you see, vulnerability in them or parts of their personality that come out. It just seems like a very unique position for you to be in, to kind of watch these people with the camera on,
Yeah, honestly, I have to say I'm really lucky to be able to do that. And like that a lot of them trust me enough to go back there with them. Because there's been plenty of times where I've been sitting in the locker room with an athlete and I get as nervous as the team gets. Yeah. And I think it was when I went to the fight with Jazz in Rochester, and Lyndon was there, Chris was there. I think Matt DiMarcantonio was also there. A couple of other people came also, but they left once Lyndon said, "Okay, we're getting ready. Like, get the hell out." Because when Lyndon gets ready, it's all business, right? So he turns up the music and he starts warming up his athlete, and it's laser focused. Like, nobody's talking. Everybody needs to shut the fuck up and stay out of everybody's way. And the second that happens, like, my body just started to feel like I started tensing up. Like, I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my God, it's time. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Right? Because up until that point, they're waiting maybe 2 or 3 hours before they're supposed to go on. And it's just like, they're shooting the shit. They're going to the bathroom. They're looking at their phone. They're not really doing anything.
And then like all of a sudden a switch gets flipped and it's like, oh shit. Like it's another level of intensity. Yeah.
And you can feel it. It's an energy. You can really feel it. And like, I've walked out behind her just to film her, and I don't even want to look her in the face because I'm like, I don't want to cut off her focus. Like, I don't even want to smile at her because I don't know if I'm going to fuck her up,
Yeah.
Like,
don't be happy around me right now. Don't you be happy around me right now. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah, exactly. Oh, you're going to kill her. You're like hugging her and she's like, get the fuck off me, dude. Get the fuck off me.
Stay the fuck away from me. So I just try and kind of I try and capture that when I'm there. And I've been so lucky to be able to do that. It depends. Certain athletes are different, right? Like
that's the thing.
I've hung out with Lindsay at a boxing fight before, and she was so just chill, right? She's bouncing around, getting ready. She loves boxing, like it's all fun and games. Rory and Lyndon were there, and her other coach, Bruckman, he was also there. And it was fun, loosey goosey. She walked out. She was home in Oshawa, walked out to Hungry Eyes, the Dirty Dancing song, and like was just smiling, and it was so fun. And then she went out there and just killed the girls. So everybody's different,
it's so true.
And they work differently, but it still doesn't stop me from feeling what they're feeling. Like, it's weird. Like, I know that I'm not really a part of it, and I haven't been a part of the preparations per se, but I feel like I am when I'm there in that moment because it's so intense.
Well, I mean, it's a word that you said that really made sense and struck me as trust, right? Like you these people trust you, right? It's like you're not, I guess you're not there in that capacity, but you are. Like, you're kind of this, they probably don't have a lot of people in that inner circle that are that close that they really trust. And it's really cool that you're there because, there's just so much of this that we don't see, right? Like, I mean, we see from the public, like me, right? Like, I see a bit of the training. I get to train with these guys on the ground sometimes. But it's like when that's gone, I just see them making the walk out into the cage, and that's it. Like, I don't, I've never been in the back with Josh or Lyndon or these guys, so I don't get to see that. And I'm very fascinated by it because it must be such an intense and crazy experience. And I can't imagine being in that room because I feel like when I watch people fight that I even know, like, not that I'm like best friends with these people because I'm not. It's just, but when you see them, it makes them, I just said this to Josh Hill. I interviewed him last week. And it's like, you realize that these are real people, like they're vulnerable people. And it's like, otherwise, if you see them on social media, it's like I said, it's more like a video game character or a movie. Like, you're not invested on that level. And to just see them and to experience part of their life, you just like, oh, wow, this is a person that I don't want to see them get hurt. Like, there's more of a connection there. And I get super nervous watching like Josh or Aaron Jeffrey, like my heart is fucking pounding out of my chest because you feel so helpless. So I think that's really cool what you do to be behind the scenes like that.
Yeah, well, honestly, that's the best part of it, right? Like, even though I get great content, even though I'm happy to be there and take photos and document the whole thing, the fact that I get to be there at all is amazing. And trust me, I'm sure if I was there at, let's say, for example, Jazz had her UFC debut and I was there, it would probably feel the exact same way. Even though the stakes are higher, in a way, it would probably feel the same way, just because it's always going to be nerve-wracking. It's always nerve-wracking, right? You're literally leaving your whole team behind and getting in a cage by yourself and hoping that everything that you just did, is gonna help you succeed. And I could never imagine what that feels like, and I honestly don't think I'm interested in figuring it out. So like, just even feeling that for that 30 seconds is enough for me.
Well, I'm the same way, because like jiu-jitsu's one thing. Like I've gone out and and even that's a real roller coaster to compete. But it's like at the end of the day, fighting is so much more personal, right? Like you lose a jiu-jitsu match and it sucks because you put in the preparation, but it's not really like a fight. I could get injured, but I know that the goal isn't to try to injure me. Like nobody's going to be kicking me in the head and all this kind of stuff. So I just, even with those highs and lows, I'm just like, I don't know how they do it, because it's like, you literally might not be the same person after a fight. I mean, I'm not saying that the chances of that are necessarily super high, but like you get knocked out brutally. I mean, we've seen people in this sport change, and what we know with brain damage and that sort of thing. It's like, it adds a whole other risk level to it that even 10 years ago wasn't kind of there. Like we'd be like, knockout of the night. And now even the UFC's moved to performance of the night because they don't want to glorify, because we know what that does to people over time. But
totally.
I just wanted to transition a bit too, because you've worked a lot with BJJ as well. So what's your experience been with jiu-jitsu? And you said you kind of really enjoy it. So what's it like working with that? Who are some of the people or events that you've worked with and followed? And just tell me a bit about your experiences with that.
Yeah, so I think my full steam ahead experience would be with the Quintet event that Rory puts on.
Okay, yeah.
And again, like, same sort of idea. Like, when he first decided that it was something that he wanted to do, he was like, I want to set you up with all the contacts that I have, and I want you to go out and make those connections and, create content based on, the teams that we're putting together. And it was just like, it was literally like exactly what I was doing in MMA, but for jiu-jitsu. And it was great because for whatever reason, I just didn't realize that there was such a big community, like local community, probably because I had never explored it. So I'm blown away at how much engagement there is in this sport here. Like, that first event was crazy. It was such a success, and it was so nice to see, his first event kind of blow up like that.
Yeah, it really
was. It shows
crazy.
that people are interested and want to see it. And it's simple, right? Like, it's not, smoke and mirrors and like blood and guts. It's simple, and people still want to see it and love it. And so I think working on that show kind of opened my eyes a little bit more to really how exciting the sport is. Like, if you don't understand the sport and you don't understand how it works, of course you're going to be like,
for sure.
Just hit him. What are you doing? Get off the ground. But there's just so much more to it. And I actually enjoy seeing fighters grapple, even when I'm watching MMA fights,
it is a cool
I like
aspect.
watching them grapple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
well, what Rory's done that's really smart, and what I think the future kind of is in terms of like growing the popularity of jiu-jitsu, is more of a no-gi style, and it's more of an open rule set, and it's geared towards submissions, right? I mean, I'm not sure, you probably don't watch a lot of the high-level gi stuff, but and I'm a fan of it. I've always been more partial to no-gi. I just enjoy it more. But the high-level gi stuff has become, it's very difficult to watch in a lot of ways, and even some of the best grapplers, in the world that compete say the same thing. It's much slower, it's much more tactical, and given the rule set that favors points, people are very conservative. It's all about just kind of getting a pass and getting your points, and people are doing what they have to do to win because that's what you're there to do. So I don't blame them. It's just it just, even for people like me that have done it for 15 years, it's hard to watch some of these high level matches because people tend to be way too conservative, and people are winning on an advantage, which is basically kind of like an imaginary point. So I think it makes it more accessible to the average fan to say,
Yes.
okay, these guys are going for arm bars and chokes, and if you don't get the win, it's either you go to overtime or it's a decision or something like that. So I think that's kind of the wave of the future. But yeah, so you were doing sort of, I saw you do some like you prep videos for it and that sort of thing. So were you seeing and working with some of the athletes individually as well for that?
Yeah, so for the first 2 shows, they were the main event, I guess, were teams, right? So
Yep.
I would go to the gyms and I would ask the gyms to bring in the athletes that were competing. And the best part about that is, and it's funny that you're saying how you were making that comparison between like Rory's concept, which is submission, and then
Yep.
the sort of high level stuff where it's a little bit more conservative. It's funny because like once they know I'm coming, they go balls to the wall. Like they're not going to be rolling around and warming up. Like they try and kill each other because they're like, okay, like the camera's
I got
on,
it.
let's go. Like,
Oh, that's funny to hear. Yeah.
so it's kind of like an accelerated, sort of amplified version of no-gi for me. And it makes me even more interested because I'm like, oh crap, like these guys are serious, right? Like they're going for it. When I went to Budo and I was covering Igor Makaiber and Steve Sims and his brother.
Oh, nice. Okay, those guys are beasts. Yeah.
They went nuts. Like they literally were trying to kill each other, and then afterwards they're like, yeah, if you weren't here, we probably wouldn't have rolled like that. I'm like, hey man, like this is what's gonna sell. So, and the video ended up turning out really well. So I'm happy to do that kind of stuff. That's what's exciting. So yeah, I literally just went around from team to team, and I kind of just did some promotional stuff, and then I would interview like the head coach and whoever was manning the team for the event, and then a couple of the athletes who were there. I don't think that they usually get a lot of press attention per se.
Right.
So a lot of them weren't really interested in being interviewed, which I totally understand. That's fine. But it's nice to sort of encourage them to do that because, it's just a good habit to have. It's a good thing to get comfortable doing. And
Right.
I'm not really super formal, right? Like I just try and make somebody comfortable. I want to show the best parts of them. I'm not going to try and make them look bad. I want to make them look good. So as long as they understand that, they're usually pretty good, and I can usually conduct a pretty good interview for the purposes.
Well, I think jiu-jitsu is a little bit underappreciated, and it's as big as the community is, and it's great, and it's cool that you notice that because it is really an awesome community for the most part. Mm-hmm. But it is very like, it still is like very much a niche sport. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like, oh, it's huge. There's gyms everywhere, but like to the general public, people are still like, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean? So I think people genuinely are grateful that you're doing that kind of thing because, people want to see their work get sort of exposed and have people show what they're doing. And it's like, you get that more in MMA, but in jiu-jitsu, you don't. I mean, there's guys that are world-class athletes that have 10,000 followers, 5,000, few hundred. And these are like, they're the equivalent of like LeBron James in our sport. Not necessarily that high, but you know what I mean? There are some incredibly high level athletes that you don't really hear much about them, which is a shame. So I appreciate what you're doing there. You mentioned actually this element of being comfortable, making them comfortable. I do wonder, like, what is the process like for you? Like, I always wonder, there's so much about life behind the camera that I don't quite understand. And I've done a little bit with music. Like I've done some music videos and I've worked with a few great videographers. This was before I knew you, by the way, so don't take that personally.
Hey, it's okay. No problem. No territorialism here.
But like you've got these fighters, you got these athletes. Like, how do you go in there and either build trust with them, or how do you approach something like this? You've got an athlete, you've got an event. Where does it start for you, and how do you bring it all together, I guess?
So luckily at this point in my career, like most people know that that's a part of my identity, I guess.
Right.
Like you kind of have these online identities where it's like, oh, that's Paul, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, or oh, that's Lauren, she loves videography.
She's that's Lauren from OnlyFans. Okay, we know her. Yeah, she's
That's you.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I'll put a link to it in the description box.
God. Oh, just for the record, he's lying.
I'm
everybody.
kidding.
He's
I'm
lying.
kidding,
It's
guys.
not
I'm
OnlyFans.
joking. It's also at lmonlyfans.com. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, fuck. Can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course.
I just did. Okay, great. So luckily at this point, most people kind of know that that's what my deal is, and I'm a video person. But I think when they meet me, it's funny because, and I don't know if, like, I could just be making this up out of thin air, but I find that when I go into gyms sometimes, it's especially jiu-jitsu gyms, like really hardcore, like, you know, like jiu-jitsu gyms where it's like they almost act the same way as MMA fighters, where they're sort of standoffish and like tribal, and they stick to
it's very it can be very very tribal that way.
Yeah, right. So I walk in this little girl, like big smile, and I'm like, hey everybody, like how are you, whatever, and then they just sort of crack. And like I say hi to everybody. I make sure I make eye contact with them. Like I don't film them without like trying to make a connection with them, because I don't want them to be like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And
that's
so
super important.
I just try and be friendly. It sounds really ridiculous and basic, but it's true. Like you can't be a videographer and just think that you have the license to film whoever you want whenever you want because you think it looks cool. Like you got to make a relationship with somebody, and that's when you're going to get good stuff out of them, you know? Like there was so many times where athletes have met me and they've just like tried to avoid me while they see the camera in my hand, until I go up to them and I talk to them, or I try and like, you know, create a connection, and then all of a sudden the whole thing drops, right? Like It's like glass breaks. And then the next time they see me, they're like, oh my God, like, hey, how are you? That video was awesome. Like, I thought I looked stupid, but you made me look good. Like, that's a compliment to me. Like, I want them to feel that way. And then I would be able to work with them again. So it's important. It sounds so stupid, but you just have to be nice to everybody. Be nice. Don't be that person that somebody's like, you know, they're an asshole, or they were rude to me, or they can't even say hello. No, like you can't just walk into a gym and think that it's yours. You got to go in and know that like this is a territory that's owned by a bunch of people, and they're very tribal about it, and understand that, right?
Well, it's the piece. It's the piece for you too that I would say is, you know, it seems from a distance is that you're probably successful because you strike me as a very sincere person. Like, I think people can sense that about, and I'm sure that goes a long way in people letting you in and trusting you, is that you have that approach where you're not like, oh, haven't you heard of me? Haven't you heard of my resume? Like, no, and it's like, I say this all the time. I've said this a few times to athletes and stuff that I like and I interview and I root for, is that, you know, they're good people, and it's like you can see that and you can feel that, and I think that probably goes a long way for you. And just being willing to, in jiu-jitsu, I see this too with athletes where, like, you know, there's this false modesty sometimes with some people where they're like, oh, I'm the gracious black belt instructor, when it's not real in a lot of ways. And I just think for you, it's having that ability to just be like, hey man, this is your territory. I'm just here. Like, I'd love to get to know you. And I'm sure that goes a long way in letting the guard down and building that trust.
Well, it's funny because flipping that in my industry, that same thing happens with photographers and videographers.
Oh, I think it's just a human nature in all these areas, right?
Totally. And it's honestly, it's annoying because I've used the word territorial before, but it's true. There's so many people in this creative industry, even though it's creative and collaborative, I think it is, and you're constantly learning new things, which you should be. There's people who are just not interested, right? Like, they're not interested in letting anybody in because they're afraid they're going to lose work, or, you know, they claim, you know, this mount and nobody else can have it. And it's like, I think that's kind of stupid, you know, like some of the best photographers that I know, I don't know if you know Alejandro Quintero. He's,
oh God, I've heard that name.
He does jiu-jitsu and Bellum sometimes.
Oh, I do know who that guy is. Oh, I didn't even know he was into that. I don't know him well, but I do know her. I think I follow him on Instagram too. So yeah.
He's literally one of the most talented, successful photographers that I know, and like, he will always waste his time answering my stupid questions, and I so appreciate that.
I thought you were gonna say he's such an asshole. He's so territorial, that guy. No.
He's so nice, and he doesn't care, right? Like, he's just like, what's the point, right? Like, we all have different styles, we all do different things. Like, you know, I'm in soccer. He shoots a lot for soccer, and because he's so talented. I try and bring him to Ontario soccer because of his attitude, right? And like, of course he's talented also, but like, you know, if he wasn't so friendly with me, I wouldn't care at all, because, you know, so for me, it's just, I don't understand why people are like that. It kind of drives me a little nuts, especially when it comes to something creative, because everybody's different. We all have different styles. There's so many things that you can learn. This whole creative field is constantly changing. So I just like to be nice to people. I guess that's what it kind of comes down to. It
No,
sounds
and
stupid, but it's
I mean,
true.
and just even, it's funny, we've never really talked in person, and I guess we still haven't, because this is the new normal till 2028.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know what it is about people, but there's kind of, you know, you tend to go one of two ways when you get a bit of success. You tend to either continue to stay modest and be like, wow, there's so much to learn, and you stay humble, or a lot of people tend to double down and they're like, okay, I know what's going on. And I'm sure there's a whole host of reasons. I do think some of it's insecurity. I do think some of it is just, you know, maybe people when they were younger didn't have a lot, and suddenly they have a little bit of shine, and now they don't want to go back. But I do think probably that's going to help continue to make you successful, because I don't know, even just the guy that I worked with the music stuff, I've never been I've never been a guy that was like, oh, film me. I feel weird about it. But he was just so cool and down to earth. And it was, like you said, it was almost just like having a conversation. It's just when it doesn't feel like you're in a bubble and you feel you're just chatting with somebody, it just comes more naturally, you know? And I would assume that that's
Totally.
I was going to ask you how to bring out the best in people, but I would assume that that's it, is put them at ease, gain their trust, and suddenly it's kind of just another day at the office probably for them, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I definitely don't slap them with the hard stuff at first, right? So like, I'm not going to
Oh,
do
so you start hitting them?
the
You
interview
slap
the
them?
second I get in there, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good
Interview me.
No, that's a good point, right? So there is an element then of a slow build, right? You're not just going in and
For
being
sure.
like, it's like let's get people sort of acclimated to me and what I'm all about. Would you say that that's
Yeah,
accurate?
and even when I do get them on camera, I can tell, right? They're just like sort of stiff, and they're like, so what are you going to ask me? Or
Yeah.
what should, you know, like just things like that. And it's like, I don't even, while I'm setting up the tripod, I'm like, oh, what'd you do today? Like, what's been going on at the gym? Like, do you have anything going on? Like, you know, oh, weather's really bad. Like, it sounds stupid, but
No,
honestly,
but it's like
it helps them because
you're talking to them like a person. Like you're not
exactly.
just talking to them
Yes.
as a quote unquote subject, right? Like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll just sort of like give them an introduction of what I'm trying to get at when I ask them the questions, so that they kind of have an idea. And then boom, we go from there. And most of the time, honestly, the other thing that goes a long way is just complimenting them. You know, like if they answer a question and you're like, great answer, they're usually like, oh, okay,
wow,
great,
all
awesome, right?
yeah.
And then they feel good about themselves. And I don't say it if I don't mean it. I actually do mean it, but it does go a long way, because most of the time people are on camera and they're holding their breath until it's done, and then they're like, oh my god, that was awful. It wasn't awful, they just think it is. So you just have to get that kind of crap out of their head.
Well, it's funny because I've always been a very sensitive person, and like growing up, I still have a lot of anxiety, but I became very like perceptive about people's body language and how they respond to things. And so I find like I don't tend to do well with people, not that it means it's their fault or they're bad, but when I don't get much of a response from somebody, you know, those people that are, I would say they're a little more emotionally unavailable, like they're a little more,
Yeah.
I get nervous because of that, because I'm sort of saying in my head, I'm like, does this person even like, am I doing like, is this shit? Do I look like shit? Am I sounding like shit? So I think
Right.
even just having somebody that's like, cool, oh, this looks good, good job. Like to have that feedback for me really puts me at ease, because I kind of like to know where I stand with things. And so if you come in and
For
you're a
sure.
photographer or a videographer and you're stone-faced, it's just like the whole time I feel tense, because I'm like, well, is this going well? Like what should I do? So I would imagine people feel the same way a lot of times. Like you're making them feel like, oh, okay, I'm getting good feedback from this person, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I hope that's the way it goes. It feels like that's been successful, so I continue to try and go that way.
Yeah.
Also, it's not fun for me if they look uncomfortable, right? Because then the shot just gets ruined, and
Yeah, exactly.
nobody's happy. So
Yeah. Well, look, I just got a couple more things I wanted to ask you about, but I just wanted to bring it back a little bit to the MMA BJJ thing. I was just curious, like you're like, again, as a bit of an outsider, I just wonder what your perception of the MMA BJJ community's been like? What's your sort of take on what you've seen as a sport, as a community, and that sort of thing? I just wanted sort of your perspective on that. Is there anything, I guess, that surprised you, or something that, you know, shocked you about it, or you learned that you didn't expect?
I think the sport has gotten a lot better since the commission changed. Because I was a part of it before when the commission was really bad, and then when the commission changed, all of a sudden, you know, we were able to see boxing and MMA fights a lot more frequently, which is great. I think my favorite part of what I've sort of watched grow is seeing the people that I've watched since, I don't know, like years and years and years ago, when they were like desperate for fights, able to fight more consistently, and have a home gym like Bellum, for example, where they know that they can get quality practice, quality leadership, and honestly, a community that like actually gives a shit about you, you know, like, yeah. I think it's funny because I don't think that I'm sure that this is, I don't even know what you would call it, a problem across all sports, but it's funny because sports is always about teamwork and unity and loyalty and stuff. And sometimes I think that definitely gets lost. I mean, I've definitely seen it get lost in soccer. And it definitely gets lost in MMA sometimes, for sure. But it is nice to see, and I keep giving Bellum props. It's because they're the closest to me, but I really do truly think that this is what they do practice what they preach, and it's just nice to see the commitment that they have to their athletes and the people around them. Like Bellum has been nothing but good to me, so I can't say otherwise. Like they've been loyal to me. They've treated me like a team member. And, you know, I couldn't ask for anything better. So that's been really awesome. And like I said, with the BJJ community, it's a little bit more new to me, but I'm just soaking it in. I'm soaking in, like, you know, it is such a niche, but it's a powerful niche, and it's a really rich niche. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of different gyms. There's a lot of different people and athletes, and it's just kind of cool to discover them all.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I said, I really didn't know it was as big as it was. And now that I have an idea of what it's like, I feel like it's an untapped market for me. Like there's just so much I could do, you know, like just the people I've been able to meet because of the show. The Quintet show has been so rewarding. So not that I'm giving up on MMA. I'm definitely going to still.
Yeah, you sound like you're about to just quit. You're just giving up right now.
Yeah. I'll continue to cover it, but honestly, I find a lot of joy in covering jiu-jitsu too. It's definitely a nice extra thing to have also.
Well, look, the last thing I just wanted to ask you about is, I mean, you know, I just want to talk to you a bit about your future plans and like what's your like, are you in a bad spot here with Corona? Like, how has it impacted your business? And are you really concerned, or does it look like you'll be able to continue? Like, what's it been like for you, and what does the future look like for you in terms of your projects and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I think in terms of projects and stuff, I'm really good at networking. Like I always reach out to people and I'm like, hey, you want to shoot? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? There's just, like I said, there's so many different athletes out there. Like I don't just focus on pro athletes. I like my AMI athletes too, you know, like they're coming, they need some exposure, and I like giving them that opportunity, you know, like I said, I followed Jazz for her whole AMI career.
Yep.
And I hope that what I did with her helped her, right? Like I hope that now that she's a pro, like none of this stuff scares her, or maybe I helped make her a little bit more comfortable. And I don't know, I find joy in that kind of stuff. It's fun constantly, like discovering new things. So I'm not really worried. I think, you know, the MMA community and the BJJ community, like they're going to train no matter what, right? Like the world is going to implode and they're still going to be training. So I'll still go shoot them.
Yeah.
No problem. But in terms of like the pandemic, yeah, like I think it's going to shift my career a little bit. I don't think I'm going to stay in sports because sports has taken a really big hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the pandemic, sports is all about people. You know, we need people. We need our athletes. We need large groups of people and teams and clubs. And I think it's going to take a while for the sport industry to find its feet again. So I'm probably going to make a career shift, but I'm not sure what that is yet. But it's not going to stop me from staying creative because I have so many different options. So yeah, that'll continue. You'll still see me producing stuff, no problem.
No, I mean, that's great. I mean, you strike me as a very versatile kind of artist, so I'm assuming you'll adapt very, very well. I mean, your photography is great. Your vignettes are outstanding.
Vignettes.
The vignettes.
I wish there was a way I could have vignetted the frame here for you.
Well, the one piece I'll say too that I think is smart for you is you gotta. It's good to invest in sort of up and coming athletes. Like, I think everybody wants to. They want to get a business going, and then let's just reach out to big names. But it's kind of like, I think that's a great way to build relationships and trust with athletes, is I'm sure. And to be honest, those people tend to appreciate it more because you're there for them at the ground level. You're not just like, oh, cool, Josh is fighting in Bellator or the UFC. I'm going to reach out to him now, because I'm sure they have a ton of people. So I think that's a great strategy. And there's no doubt. I mean, the stuff you've put out has been great. And I mean, it's cool to see you working with these athletes. They deserve the attention. They kill themselves in training. So I'm glad you're doing well. Thanks so much for doing this. It was a lot of fun to finally chat with you. And I would actually like to do some filming with you and shooting with you, because you reached out to me about, I was doing a lot of techniques. And then sure enough, my gym just closed. So now it's so bad. Yeah, I forgot to say, I partially blame you because you canceled the day that it closed. So I thought, this son of a bitch here. I don't know. I'm not trying to say it's your fault, but the timing was a little bit too coincidental, I find. But
I had to find a good reason to cancel, so I just made sure that your gym flooded, so that you would have to cancel.
You went around Hamilton and flushed all the toilets at the same time. In classic Maharaj fashion. No, if I ever get my feet set and figure something out, I really would love to work with you and do some stuff. That'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks so much for doing this. You're awesome. I love your work. How can people find you? Is there anything you want to plug? Anything that I didn't bring up that you wanted to mention or talk about?
No, you can just find all my work at LM Creative Film on Instagram. I'm working on a website, but right now it feels like the website will probably end up looking just like the Instagram. So who knows if it's worth spending the money, but we'll see. I'd like that. You'll see all my work there. It's not just MMA, jiu-jitsu. I also do weddings. How weird is that? But it's true. I like doing weddings. Portraits and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think if you can handle dealing with MMA fighters in the back before they go out to fight someone in a cage, I'm pretty sure if there's someone that you want that could be cool under fire, it's definitely Lauren, I think. I would say that for sure.
Yeah, well, honestly, I have to be honest. I think doing weddings are a little bit easier because everybody is so happy and like,
oh yeah,
if they all look, they look their best, they feel their best.
yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of hard to make them look bad. If you do, you must just really suck or not care.
Yep.
But yeah, so you can see all my work there, and I think in terms of projects, everything goes up there. I'm pretty active online, so yeah, you'll see everything on my page there.
Yeah, I'll definitely put. I always put like a little banner. I'm sure they'll see it on the bottom there, and then I put links in the description box below. So
awesome.
Thanks so much. You're awesome. I really appreciate you doing this. So it was great to finally chat with you. Yeah.
I appreciate it. No, thanks for having me on. I actually can't believe that somebody thought I was interesting enough.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, I always I always wanted to chat with you, and because we'd always see each other in passing, and literally you were one of the first people I thought of, because it was like, I just think it's interesting what you do, and having some experience with videographers, it's just cool to see what your life is like kind of behind the lens a little bit, because you do have a very unique vantage point of a lot of these things that the average person doesn't see. Like, I always find it interesting, like, even when you're doing photography and stuff, I always wonder kind of what, when you're looking at videos and shots, you guys are always seeing stuff, and I just wonder what that is, because I would sort of maybe compare it to music. I've recorded a ton over the years, and being in a studio and understanding how we lay down all the tracks and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, I don't think you ever quite listen to music the same way again. So I wonder kind of, those angles and stuff that you're seeing, I just find fascinating,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it's like. it's like Robin Black, the way he watches fights, not the same way I watch fights, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He's so analytical. He just knows, he's watching it a totally different way than I am. So yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good comparison.